Welcome to Beyond Turning Points. Have an amazing guest for you today, and I'm so excited for this conversation with Heather Leighton. And Heather is a spiritual teacher, coach, a guide, a shaman. She has a phenomenal amount of content and creativity pours out of her. She guides people into some of the unseen realms as well as the realms that we can experience here. And I have my own curiosities that I'm going to be asking Heather about today, and it's a real gift to spend time with Heather. So if you're into consciousness and shamanism and why are we here and the experience of life and how do we create what we want to create in our life, I think you're going to love this conversation. So welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Ash. I really appreciate the opportunity and thanks for bringing these conversations to a greater audience. Super excited.
Yeah, thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, I guess one of my first curiosities is where did you grow up?
Ah, interesting. I was born in Sydney and I grew up on the Gold Coast. So, amongst the rivers and the lakes and the many, many waterways, I watched that area transform over time. And then I made it really important for myself to remove myself from that bubble and really travel the world because I think we all realize this, but once I came through the school system and the uni system, I had a deep feeling that this isn't all of reality. This was a bubble, and somewhat of a privilege bubble. So I really wanted to get outside of that to see the world, and I did. And the interesting turning point is I've found my way back on the Gold Coast only recently. So there's this full circle moment back to the land of which developed me as a person, and just feeling into that and reflecting on that chapter. So it's been really really interesting. Yeah, but Gold Coast was the place.
Yeah, yeah, I spent a lot of time. I think I lived on the Gold Coast for, oh gosh, 25 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it grows rapidly. It's
Mm,
rapid development. So
mm.
yeah, it's a really interesting place.
Yeah, well, I just saw in the last month there's been statistics come out say the Gold Coast has the most expensive rent in Australia. It's ahead of Sydney now as far
Is
as rental
it?
prices go. Yeah. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I guess I understand that. It's like it's a rapidly growing city, really, but it's so close to the ocean that it has this kind of clearing aspect to it as well. So I think many people are attracted here for a certain period of time, as we all are, right? We're attracted to different lands and energetic fields and places, and it just seems to be this mecca of people coming in and feeling the water, feeling the waterways, understanding the energy, maybe trying to make something of themselves is what I'm picking up. But you're so close to the ocean, and the ocean's so forceful here that you've got that constant clearing as well. So really, really interesting energetics for sure.
yeah, yeah, I can relate. I was in the ocean almost every day when I lived there. Beautiful, beautiful. And Yugambeh country?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And I'm curious, is there, so Yugambeh is the local indigenous tribe, clan, shall we say, nation? I don't know
Hmm.
what the right word is there. Um, I'm curious, do you have any insights into the characteristics of that land and how it works with people?
Yeah. I mean, I can't claim Indigenous descent. However, I can use my shamanic skills and my feeling sense to just get what I'm getting. So that's all I can really share with you. But I spent 6 years up on Tambourine Mountain, which I was told while I was up there that was a very sacred mountain that they used to birth babies on. It's a feminine mountain. The grandmothers used to take the younger women up to birth their babies. So it was very fertile land, very volcanic soil. So that really is imbued in the energetics of the place as well. So it's a great place to come back to yourself, to birth something new, to be in that really rich, fertile soil. And then I actually find the juxtaposition of that mountain energetics to the Gold Coast to be very different. So there's a really big contrast. So down here was so much water and really a city built on swamplands. It can be quite dense and quite stagnant. But as I said before, it's like the ocean brings in constant change so that you're not completely bogged down with that stagnant energy of the swamp. So I think for the Indigenous, there was always a purpose to the environment, a purpose to the energetics of the place. They worked so well with the Australian land that they either thrived in an environment and their community would thrive too because they figured out how to work with the conditions, or they moved on. So I'm still trying to gather the real energetics of the place because the last time I was here, I didn't have shamanic training and I didn't have that sense. I was just reacting to the environment. But this time it's really sinking into the invitations on the land to work in harmony with it first and then decide, are the energetics working for me? Can I work in harmony with this environment, or do I need to move on to a place where I can really thrive? Obviously, as a shaman, we never want to hinder the environment that we're in, but we're always working with the energetics and the invitations. So I wouldn't say that there's a lot of healing to do down here, but certainly this environment has been healing me in that constant embodiment of the water element. So um, probably just a deep understanding of how the Indigenous would have had to live to thrive here, and how well they did that in any environment, and how difficult that is for us at times because there's so much here just about developing and paying the bills and all this other stuff that can take you away from that sort of energetic invitation. So, as always, shamans walk between worlds. We've got one foot in the real world or the 3D world and one foot in the spirit world. So, it's really about integrating those parts. And the Gold Coast is certainly facilitating a lot of beautiful energy exchange for me personally, which I'm sure I did for the Indigenous.
Thank you. Thank you. So you were kind of living, inverted commas, normal life, and then there was some sort of shift towards shamanism, energetic world. So
Yeah.
is there anything that stands out to you how that came about?
Oh, yeah. Uh, if I look back, I think I was always in both worlds, but I didn't have any guidance or development or training in that. So much like my students express, that creates a bit of an inner isolation. So just like many of us when we grow up, we feel that there's something else going on that maybe other people can't relate to. So I studied alternative medicine pretty quickly. That was a huge passion of mine, and that's because an acupuncturist changed my life. And he sort of abolished a lot of that loneliness around how I was interpreting the world. So I was interpreting the world in an energetic, spiritual sense, but I didn't realize that. It was just that I felt different. So an acupuncturist changed my life. They're a beautiful modality, and I ended up studying that Chinese medicine because it does bring in energetics into health, which I adore, and elements into health. So that was sort of opening the first door. But I just kept on moving through trying to find the missing component, the thing that would explain my world back to me with a sense of, oh, thank God. Right, I get it. Someone else gets it. It's strange, but it's just that I can then relax into it. So searching, searching, seeking, seeking all over the world, sat with many masters, many healers. I think I was in the Peruvian jungle at age 24 in ayahuasca ceremonies, searching, seeking lots of plant medicines, trying to open the doors, trying to scratch this itch, I guess. I just wanted to know, why am I here? How do I translate this experience? And how do I bring meaning to my reality? Because nobody else seems to share what I experience. Um, and it was meeting my mentor in a life coaching certification that she really opened that door. And she's the one that taught me shamanism. She initiated me. She encouraged me to teach. And finally, that was the organization of my reality that made sense. So, uh, quite a long journey to get there. Yeah, but as I watch my students go through, it's just a remembering. It's just like, oh, there it is. This makes sense to me. Finally, something makes sense to me. Okay. Then we just need some tools and some understanding and the permission that it's okay to have that framework. And then kind of off we go in onto the shamanic path, just feeling like finally the body and the mind can heal from what was quite a sharp contrast. The pain points for any maybe unintegrated shaman or someone that doesn't know that that's what's happening is just not fitting in and not being able to make sense of our experiences before training shows up. Yeah.
So I'm connecting for me too, right? As you're speaking,
Yeah.
was there's the upbringing, the conditioning, which from a loving family, but it was still very, very, very Western, right?
Yes.
And very, very, my parents born in the 40s through the 50s, 60s, and so there's particular aspects of those generations that they had in relation to survival and the way that the world is, and then my experience of, oh, I don't fit, right? And for me, that was kind of amplified too by being adopted as a baby.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I had in my upbringing, people would say, "Oh, you're adopted. Oh, you're so special." And
Mm.
it's a very common trait for adopted people to go, "Well, I'm special. The rules don't apply to me."
Right.
Yeah, because they're hardwired. You're special. You're special. You're different. You're different. The other thing that comes with that, of course, is don't fit in, don't fit in, don't fit in.
Sure.
My own learnings around that has been, well, we're all unique. We all have this part where our humanness is seeking to understand where we fit in the tribe so that we can benefit the tribe. Um, I think at times I'm still finding, the kind of things where things shift in life and then there's the liminal space in between. So, and the identity, the attachment to identity. So, I'm not that. I thought I was that. Hang on a second. And I know you've done a lot of work with identity and accepting identities or working with them and also the guilt that can be attached to identities.
Hmm.
Anything come up for you that you want to share?
Oh, yeah, huge. I feel, things are moving so quickly and there's so many people waking up without support, structure, guidance, mentorship, anything, and finding our place in something that we also know is falling in and out of resonance for us. So I think we have to be mindful that the places we haven't fit in or we haven't recognized who we truly are, that's a spiritual invitation to go on that seeking path, and that's wonderful. But then we're really looking for ourselves constantly. And maybe we're not meant to really fully relax because we are not sure if we're going to find our tribe right now. We're going to find counterparts and people along the way, and we can certainly build communities around different belief systems. And we have the freedom to do that now, which is wonderful. But our identity needs to be crafted from within rather than externally. That in itself can be a little bit daunting and isolating because it's like, no, wait, it's so much easier for me just to be mirrored by people that I love, that I adore, that I admire. But the inward quest to find ourselves and then dissolve our egos to find a purpose is meant to be difficult. That's why we're here. It's like individuation and finding our purpose and going on spiritual pilgrimages usually happen because we don't get that very easy sense of identity, because we don't quite fit in. to something, then we go, okay, let's look for something else. So it's almost like I want everyone to feel like they truly know themselves, but I also want them to be uncomfortable enough so that they seek themselves through the right experiences and they see themselves in the mirror of the natural world or in other people. But we've been so heavily conditioned to find the tribe and to sit in that sense of security and never leave, right? That's survival from a tribal clan's perspective, but we're not in that reality anymore, right? We're either trying to build that, which will be beautiful contribution to society if we can build those communities, if we can exit what doesn't work for us and go and build that with other like-minded people and do the thing. But I think our identities are meant to be stirred right now. I think that's part of a collective awakening. So even though it's like a constant restlessness, it's also going to help us find ourselves, that's self sovereignty in an energetic sense, and then seek out purpose and a North Star for us individually that has us changing the world and finding that tribal sense. That if we don't get there in this lifetime, I also understand why that's happening because just in something that's just so fascinating. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
the curiosity, right? I mentioned this just before we started recording. It's like, for me, curiosity is the gateway. So, oh,
Mm.
this is happening. Ah, okay. Curiosity rather than the rejection of, oh no, that's good, that's bad. Right. It's like,
Oh,
okay, I
yeah.
accept, I reject that constant thing which is coming from here. Whereas the experience, and as you were speaking, the experience of experiencing. Yeah. And as you were speaking, I was thinking about identity. And even then, just using the word thinking about identity, right? Like identity is a construction of thought or belief that we have, whereas the connection to the self, it's a feeling.
Mm.
And so we're possibly through cognitive ways trying to access identity, yet that connection to self, actually, that's a feeling.
Mm. Yeah, it's an experience. I just wrote down curiosity is the gateway. I think that should be on a t-shirt somewhere.
We could make it happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Um, and I love it too because I think what I've seen is curiosity strips judgment away. You know, it's constant judgment.
This episode of Beyond Turning Points is proudly sponsored by the Pure Impact Academy. Pure Impact Academy is for heart-led professionals and leaders who know their work matters. You care deeply, you show up, and yet visibility can feel challenging, effortful, or draining. So inside the academy, the transformation is from effortful leadership where things feel forced or difficult to natural leadership. So rather than posting and hoping, what we're doing is we're communicating with clarity and traction and connecting with the people you want to help with your work. So what will happen in Pure Impact Academy if you join is you learn how to articulate your work in ways that people feel seen and heard and feel like you're the person to help them. And you also learn to work with your inner critic so visibility no longer feels like it's a challenge for you. What does this mean? Well, this means you build momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful things that you can access. So in Pure Impact Academy, you also get the Messaging Matters course. There's an AI school that I run. I teach AI strategies. There's a visibility lab where it's a hands-on workshop each fortnight where you can learn about your own visibility blocks and how to navigate criticism, conflict, being seen, self-judgment, perfectionism, procrastination, all those things that we know and love about ourselves. And the goal is you have inner clarity, outer visibility, and heart-led momentum. And that way your work is going out in the world and helping the people that you want to help. Instead of guessing and trying to attract people in a way that's uncertain, you have much more certainty around your messaging. If that sounds like something you'd be interested, the link is in the show notes. feel free. You can also message me on socials. You can DM me, and I'll be very happy to answer any of your questions. Look forward to hearing from you.
We're stuck in this identity paradigm, particularly in Western culture, right? Because we want to be individual, we want to be special, and other cultures still have that tribal link. They've still got strong family systems, whether it's advantageous or not, we're not sure, but we've got that flexibility there, but it keeps us all locked in judgment of ourselves, of everybody else, self-criticism, criticism outside, blame. It's like, it's all that solar plexus stuff that I feel is really, there's really creating a lot of pressure there now for all of us, because that's where all of the classic programs sit that the schooling system's taught us, that this society's taught us: not good enough, unsafe, unlovable, unwanted, unheard, not important. It all really sits there. And if the energetics in ourselves are locked in the solar plexus, we're stuck in ego. We're stuck in a world that is all about us, and that we're just bouncing off our wounding and reacting to our wounding. We're really just lost inner childs walking around. And where I always try and get my students to first is back into the heart, which curiosity can be one of the biggest remedies for that.
Yeah.
But what would you love to be experiencing? How would you love to feel? What's curious in you about what's out there? We've got to dissolve the judgment with love every single time, because judgment only keeps you locked in that right and wrong. And if you're locked in that with you, that's a certain kind of torment that a lot of people are not handling very well. And I've often sat with myself in that torment of, there's got to be something more important out there than me and me, or am I good enough? That question could take up your whole lifetime if you let it. But we could also be focusing on something more expansive. And curiosity is just one of my highest values. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, it's the because judgment, self-judgment, judgment of others. It's such a survival frequency. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, okay, because well, if I judge somebody, I'm well, possibly historically, right? Like I'm aware that they're a stranger. Therefore, if I judge them, I can keep them at arm's length, protect the tribe, right? And then, so for a lot of people, the judgment is keeping possibly beneficial relationships at a far distance because that person doesn't look like I want them to look like, or my tribe, inverted commas once again, should look like. But then the acceptance and the curiosity and the flow, that's like, whew, just opens things up. And that's the possibilities of life when we come out of judgment into acceptance and literally that thing, well, here's the emotions passing through, here's the observations of whatever's happening in my life. But can I be in flow and allow those things? And you saying about, the sitting with those difficult judgments and being with them. I think something we've been taught in society is to avoid discomfort. Like,
Sure.
oh,
Yeah.
it's hot. I'm going to jump on Amazon and order a fan. It'll be here tomorrow. Yeah. Whereas the actual practice of being in those difficulties, that actually creates the resilience that's required to help be connected to the self and be connected to the possibilities.
Mm, yeah, I really love that you mentioned that 100%. It's like embracing discomfort is something that we're losing. There's no um, collective invitation around that anymore. The shamanic path is pretty much all that, to be honest. It's embracing discomfort the whole way. That's why it can be quite challenging, but it's learning to surrender to so many things. Surrender to that it's not working out, surrender to that this incarnation is hard, surrender to that curiosity and having love in your heart and having acceptance can be not accepted or tolerated. So much easier to just fit in with judgment, blame, egoic thinking and just follow the tribe, right? But if you're trying to govern yourself and trying to keep your heart open and trying to be respectful and honor your values at all times, um, that can be isolating within itself at times. Then you've got to go out and find people that match that and mirror that um, along the way. And I think there's always this push pull between how do I stay comfortable enough that I'm not exerting myself, burning myself out by being outside of any kind of comfort zone or security network or support network, but also embrace the discomfort of change because I feel that's a calling and that's good for me. So it's like certainty and uncertainty, comfort and discomfort. It's holding that polarity at all times, which makes the human experience so interesting um, and quite challenging too. Yeah,
So how does someone hold the polarity then?
good question. There's been a few techniques that I've taught over the years. Um, for my process, shamanism, we go towards difficult situations. We purposely carve out time to be in an intentionally uncomfortable situation, right? So that we can learn to embrace that, move towards it with the trepidation and the resistance and the uncertainty. And then we sit in surrender. So, surrender might be meditating through boredom, or a lot of people are facilitating these experiences now by, unplugging from all of our things that make us comfortable, anything from vision questing to plant medicines to literally purposely going through your past and doing the work to unlock it all, to work on your own ancestry, um, to be a cycle breaker, to do better than what they did, to maybe move through your karma, not because you have to, because nothing in this world is asking us to do that work. Actually, you're perfectly fine and you have full permission to just enjoy this lifetime. I don't think there's any pressure. But for those that feel the call to do that work, we then have to sit in how heavy that might feel, how burdensome that might be. So I was taught to go towards difficult experiences, particularly if you're out for a while, but to embrace that and to sit in surrender mode was really, really important. So instead of waiting for life to throw me under the bus so I could practice surrender, I found that a little bit inefficient over time. Um, so I remember saying to my guides, okay, like, no more trauma, thanks. I'm happy to learn from the subtleties. I will facilitate my own discomfort and I will sit there. Thank you very much. No need to throw me under the bus. Thank you for all the learnings, though, so that I can facilitate that and know that my 3D life is fine. So it's really vision questing changed my life. So did plant medicines. I don't do plant medicines anymore as a ritual, but certainly making sure I'm outside of my comfort zone a few times a year so I can make sure that I'm in touch with that process and holding polarity. So making sure that I'm always comfortable and uncomfortable and learning how to find that sweet surrender spot.
Mm, beautiful, beautiful. Mm. Yeah, I was thinking of a friend recently who has had successive injuries, like broken bones, just keeps happening, doing very simple things, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
And I saw him about a month ago, and I said to him, "So, are you done with these injuries yet?"
Yeah. Are you getting it?
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're ready. You can be doing what you want to do in life without breaking your foot, without breaking your leg, without doing this to your arm, breaking ribs. It's been such a constant thing, and not doing dangerous things. Like, okay,
Uh-huh.
you're learning about the self in this way. How about going through the mirror and just learning about it in a way that's fun and adventure and insightful and that brings a different experience to life. But it's not
Mhm.
it's it's easy for me to say it, but learned through the discomfort, and there's times where there's still great discomfort and despondency and all these kind of things that come with that. But I always know it's like, okay, I know the gift on the other side of this is greater capacity for life and stepping into the possibilities. So that's something I've been reflecting about a lot lately, is that how what most people truly want, is dependent upon their capacity to hold in those difficult situations. Yeah. So with shamanism, right, and actually, how would you describe shamanism firstly?
Mm, yeah. Um, it's a very ancient medicine or way that individuals can access the spirit world. Simple as that. It's just how do we communicate and connect with the spirit world was always what shamanism was about. Fundamentally, quite a simple medicine with a lot of different interpretations. But I really love the old structure. So when we get into spirituality, it's hard to find structure. And we crave it. Our minds crave it, at least for a certain amount of time until we develop our own relationships, and then off we go. And most people end up in shamanism because they like an earth based framework, which just puts us in touch with nature primarily, rather than um, maybe mediumship, which is really just about deceased souls and communicating with them. And then a gazillion interpretations of spirituality, like religions and all sorts of different flavors. But we develop our skills and use that framework, yes, so we can be in touch with souls that have been here before, yes, so that we can help souls cross over. But it's really to um, use nature as the biggest guiding system. So we read nature, we're in contact with it all the time, we get messages through nature, we campaign for it, we are very much part of it, and that's where the fundamentals are. Um, and then whatever we have to do to be the intermediate between the spirit world and other human beings so that we can be that messenger system. It's really just a conduit. So um, there's always been that person in the tribe. And in fact, if you go back into every beautiful modality of healing or being the medicine person in the tribe, it all really comes back from the same place. It's just different flavors of the same place. So just someone that's in touch or understands at least the energetic world, the way that the body works in all of its dimensions, or is in touch with spirits. It's like we all did it in our own way. Um, Shamanism seemed to be the oldest, simplest methodology I could find to understand, I guess, all the other noise that I already experienced. So I find the commonplace in all of them, whether it's Christianity, acupuncture, herbalism, paganism, shamanism. It all seems to have the same roots, but people love claiming this part and turning it into this and having all these right and wrongs, which is really cool. But the one thing I was taught from the beginning is there is no right and wrong in shamanism ever.
Hmm.
There's no rules. It's just here's kind of like a map that a lot of the shamanic cultures use, a thousand different interpretations of how to use that map. But the way that I was taught was in core shamanism. So Michael Hana studied all of the shamanic cultures and tribes. He stripped it down to methodology for Western people so that we are not pretending to be um, in Haiti or in Peru or an American Indian. That would not be okay because we can't claim that lineage. So stripping it down and making it just about the methodologies and having them as neutral as possible means that the West can still access that way, and we can make it our own, because a lot of us have lost our ancestry, are very confused by it. We don't want to step on anyone's toes, but we still use a word that is claimed by shamanic cultures. But even that isolation I felt as a child, if I was in a shamanic culture or still in a tribe, someone would have detected the skill set in me and pulled me aside and trained me from a young age, which I would have absolutely adored. But that didn't happen. I had to find my own way. Um, so I really am very passionate about helping others to discern if the framework of shamanism might work to help them to understand themselves and their version of reality, and then do my best to train them in a way that um, puts them in touch with that great remembering. And then from there, they can really take it in whatever way that they want. They can express whatever flavor, they can go to whatever culture, they can read whatever book and use it in their own way. So hopefully it's a gift that wakes them up to themselves. That's what I was given. Um, and, through my business, I'm always inviting people to let it wake up their gifts, which is in their ancestry somewhere. Unfortunately, for our culture, if you're looking back into your ancestry to see if there's a medicine man or woman, unfortunately for us, we follow mental health patterns uh, that were very sick, repressed gifts because they never had an outlet. So follow the bipolar, schizophrenic, fully repressed, the weird one, the one that probably had a lot of addictions, because to have that version of reality and to have those gifts, like to be able to speak to spirits or to sense the energy in a room or to be able to heal someone just with your intention or to speak to the trees, was something to hold deep shame, embarrassment, and around, and to repress. And in fact, a lot of my work has started to be undoing that repression to heal a lot of dysfunctional health. So, a lot of autoimmune diseases, a lot of labels that people have been given, a lot of mental health patterns that have been, diagnosed. And most of the time, it's just holding these people in. Okay, so you're experiencing something that you're trying to keep inside, but it's making you really, really sick. So, I'm not saying you have to go out and find a tribe to be a shaman in, but just to find enough connection and enough permission to understand who you are in your reality and to just be okay with it is such a beautiful healing opportunity for so many. So it's interesting the way that the shamanic framework adds to a culture that holds so much repression and judgment around spirituality in general.
Mm. Yeah, I feel like there's layers, right? Like there's, and almost the spiritual layer brings in the observation. It's like, oh, okay, all these things can be happening in the world, but underneath it is the observation of the spiritual world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just on that end piece. But the a question that I have for you is for yourself. So you said about, if you had grown up in a traditional tribe, someone would have gone, oh, okay, there's shamanistic qualities to you. Let's foster that and bring it forward for the benefit of the tribe. In your own life, having not had that experience, how has it benefited you as a shaman to have not had that?
Mm. Excellent question. Um, Means that I can really relate to the discomfort that others feel when they haven't had it, and to do my best to pick that up in other people. I find it's a big responsibility, but the fact that I never received that I feel the one thing I can do in this lifetime for others is to do my best to develop my skills so I can intuitively know, see, and understand when they have repressed healing or spiritual gifts. I'm only using the word gifts because it does travel down the bloodlines and they don't choose it. But the way that I was taught by my current mentor, he's a Mongolian, so he's in a culture that has that if someone starts expressing those gifts or they're chosen, they have somewhere to go to and they have a framework. We don't have that framework apart from um, if it gets too intense, medicate and psych ward. So I really try and facilitate that permission and knowing for others, even if it's a conversation around, okay, so tell me when all of this started and how does it express for you, and tell me about your life and what's been going on. And then to the best of my ability to intuitively say, I think you might want to embrace a different construct for reality just so that your body heals. No pressure to do anything beyond that. But if we're looking at healing and people feeling well, then if you haven't got there, we might entertain this idea just because there's no other way. So when people find their way to me, like your friend, multiple injuries that don't really need to happen, when people find their way to me, that it can be decades of dysfunction and bad luck, decades of depression and loss and dysfunction. And I just think it's such a beautiful gift to say, this is what I think might be happening. And there's no harm adopting this way to see if you get better. But it's really giving them permission to be more spiritual and to fully believe in what's going on, because otherwise they stay locked in, but I'm weird. And if I get weirder, then people are going to shun me. And then I've got this echo in my DNA that says, if you are that person, you're going to end up on the sidelines of society and be alone in a house with your cats or something. They have this, if I do embrace this, I'm going to be even more lonely and even more misunderstood. So for me, I don't want anyone to carry what I had to carry. I want to be the connection point, the permission point that says, I get you. I understand. I know exactly what you're going through, but it doesn't have to go on any longer. I'm here. There are people out there like you. And there's actually quite a lot of us fumbling our way through this thing. And we can create community around that so that we don't feel isolated along the way. So I think it made it my mission to solve that problem for other people if I can, so that one less person in the psych wards misdiagnosed, one less person going through decades of loss and darkness that doesn't need to, one less person um, not being understood and fitting into a system, particularly the health system doesn't work for spiritual people. We're generally so sensitive and our belief systems are so different that um, drugs and surgery and strong interventions are not necessary. Um, for someone sensitive with spiritual belief systems, uh, all they need is energy to shift, usually. So that's why these other modalities are becoming very popular and work so well for prevention, because intention moves chi very quickly. Um, all you have to do is put your hands close to someone or help them to believe that it's possible that they could heal their own bodies, and they do. Spontaneous healing. The doctors are dumbfounded because there's no system that works for us. We have to go out there and pay people to do it in a different way and acknowledge who we are. And, we are the people that lie down on a bed and nobody even touches us, and we have a spontaneous healing reaction, and we see multiple lifetimes, and we get up saying, oh my God, I think I just cleared my whole ancestry of this curse, and da-da-da. That's who we are. And it's interesting and difficult to really accept that sometimes, particularly when you're looking for that experience in the wrong places. So I think that's a really excellent question, Ash, and thank you for asking it. But I think the hardship that we go through in our own lives sets us up to find purpose in serving others that might be going through the same, and at least decreasing or intercepting their pain, and helping them find their own way.
Beautiful. I'm honored to hear your response. Thank you. Yeah, really beautiful. Really beautiful. Mm. And so you're a shaman that teaches shamans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a bit about your trips to Mongolia? And actually, I have something that I wrote down, which was around the shaman festival as well.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. Um, yeah, I facilitate shamanic training. So I hope to teach the bare basics and represent a framework as well as I can. I ask people for a year of their time to first work on the nervous system and the body to prepare. It's a pretty big experience, and I just have learned over the years to do it with care. So we actually prepare our lives first. We create space, we set boundaries, we make sure we've got the support, the energy, the resources to open up to something that can be a little bit destabilizing. Then, as we go through the shamanic path, it is somewhat like an initiation. I've learned over the years that that initiation point just happens when it happens for each individual. So I would love to be there when it happens to say, this is perfectly normal, this is excellent. Um, we'll get through this together. But sometimes it happens outside of that structure. And then after the 12-month process, we vision quest, which is very simply 3 nights solo camping. That's where I ask the students to, if you want this path and it feels right for you, then you say yes to your guides. Nothing to do with anyone else. You decide if you would like them to co-create with you from this point on. And it's okay to say no. You can accept or deny the path. And then I usually, if all things go according to plan, I take my initiated students to Mongolia to experience a version of shamanism that is very unique and very old and quite, they've managed to keep it in such good condition despite what Mongolia has been through with Soviet rule, and all the shamans had to go underground and it was very much shunned. And the Soviets turned most of the Mongolians or the Mongols to Buddhism because it was pacifying. Um, the Mongols were the greatest warriors in the world. Everybody kind of knows that. And they were pacified and ruled. And shamans went underground, and they're just coming back up now, but they're still heavily judged too. But to take students over there and go, this is an expression of the very same thing that you've learned. And what that really does is it helps them to see a common point of reality with people that are in such a different culture. The contrast between Australia and Mongolia is huge. It is like going into another dimension. Um, and it's important to see that. And yet, a Mongol that has lived off the land for generations and doesn't have any power and has a herd of goats, we're still connecting with them in such a common place around our guides and our connection to nature and reading the weather and wanting to do the best for our ancestry and wanting to do best by our guides and to be of service. Something seems to happen when we go so far out of our environment, outside of our programming, outside of our expectations, outside of the world that we've crafted, and we put into a completely different environment. in every way possible, and yet we still find common ground in this quite strange way that we operate. It shifts something in people quite dramatically. I think what I hope to facilitate is that this way of life is incredible and it leads to more connection, not less. And even in a completely different environment in a different country, there's so much sense to it for those of us that are seeking that, because it's heavily ingrained in their culture to speak to spirits and to have totems and to do rituals that bless the land and to thank spirits for the fact that we haven't had an accident today and that we made it to our family's home. That's them doing their job. And when in their belief system, when we have bad luck, when we're ill, when things aren't going our way, the spirits aren't doing their job and there's something not right. Maybe we haven't paid respects. Maybe we haven't been grateful. Maybe we haven't been listening to their divine guidance. So it strips it back to a very embodied and integrated version of it so they can see, I guess, the everyday expression of it. Um, so it's such a special experience. Um, I think it's my 4th year over there, and my mentor is very giving. Um, and we work with another shaman as well. And their ancestry is so rich that, you know, they're fully embodied on the path. There is absolutely no doubt for them. And it's a full lifelong journey and it's not easy. They know that. So I think just exposing my students to that is really, really important, and letting them know that they can adopt the path with the same level of enthusiasm and certainty and support. Um, and we usually have a lot of time for a lot of ceremony and ritual while we're over there. And very simply, that's just about increasing fortune and luck when you um, devote time and resources to the spirit world. So we give a lot. We give fire, we give gifts, we give money, we give our resources to the idea that the spirit world can help us in our lives because it's hard to be in human form. And there's always this ripple effect of intense abundance after every trip. So people's timelines shift, things happen, things come together, their lives become very apparent in where they need to be, their belief systems change, their neural networks change. You can see that kind of after effect, which is important because sometimes I can't facilitate that for them. It's really like if you do this much work with the spirit world in a short amount of time, you might find the rest of your year is tenfold abundant in what you can achieve, in where you can go, in how much you can be of service, in how much luck and fortune your entire family can have, the health and the vibrance you can feel in your body and everyone that you've prayed for. Um, and it really instills this completely different level of, as a shaman, we are not only facilitating abundance for ourselves, for our environment, for our entire family line and everyone we're connected to. We are constantly taking ownership of protecting and providing spiritual abundance for everyone around us. That's our role. Because we used to be part of the tribe. If the tribe had bad luck, bad conditions, if we didn't have enough to eat, it's the shaman's role to make sure that that happens, because we're the intuitive ones that can say, oh, we need to be over there, or where in fact there's curses on this land, we need to move, or they can have a premonition about the misfortune that's about to happen so the whole tribe can pivot, right? And they can make sure that souls are crossed over, the right souls are coming in to be birthed. And it's quite an interesting role when you put it into our culture and you think, okay, how do I embody that and integrate it in a culture that doesn't know I'm doing it, might not care so much, and doesn't have the same exchange system. But I think the other thing you asked was about the festival, which the Mongols are pretty good at either putting it on or not putting it on according to what um, nature needs. So I've been to 2 festivals now, hundreds of shamans in the one place, brings me to tears every time. I just didn't know there was that many in the world, and they are so proud. Yeah, so it's important for us to see that on show, um, and to really understand what it looks like over there, and to gather, so that we can all do that work. Good for the land, good for our communities, good for our families, good for the world. They're very much, how can we better the world? How can we plant more trees? How can we be those people in society? How can shamans help shamans to bring more fortune to all of our areas? Because we take responsibility for that.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Mm. I, I'm hitting that space where it's just like, just the expansion just based on what you've been saying. And, when truth just lands,
Mm,
so just hits the spot, and then it's like, so it's feeling like a natural place to start to finish.
perfect.
Yeah. Um, so Heather, in the show notes and for the listener, I'm going to put links to your socials. I love watching your socials. There's always such great wisdom and perspectives that you share on your socials. And I think one of the things that struck me first with your presence on socials was like, he's somebody that's really centered and present and speaking wisdom. And so I encourage the listener, go and find Heather on socials, and I also put links. You've got a book. You've got 2 books out actually. So there's the 3D. Hang on, I've got it here. Let's have a look here. Yep. So from 3D survival to 5D sovereignty, 7 layers of spiritual awakening.
Hmm.
Which is now I've got it here. It says available on Kindle. I got to get it. And so is that the only way for people to access it at the moment?
It's now, you can get it paperback as well.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so just print to order on Amazon. They don't take very long too. It's really good service.
Great, great. Well, and I'll put links to your website, and also the trainings that you have. Just acknowledging you for your leadership and the work that you're doing in the world, and um, yeah, it's amazing what can happen from one conversation and how that
Mm.
ripples out. So, look forward to seeing you soon in person and meeting you in person.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
Um, hmm. Let's finish off with a question. I'm not quite sure what the question it is yet. We'll see what comes in. Okay. Um, hmm. What was it that you had to understand about yourself that pre-shamanism and that allowed you to step into shamanism?
Mm. That I was different, and that's okay. That it wasn't, something wasn't right, something wasn't fitting, something wasn't relaxing. And I appreciate the question. I think one of the biggest turning points in my life was I got everything that the outside world told me to get. I was about 21, so I'd already bought my first house. I got my university degree. I had a car. I was in a relationship. I had a little cat. I did everything that I was meant to do. And I've never felt so empty before in my entire life. I was turning to substances I could not understand. And I thought I'd been lied to by the entire world and everybody in it, because I looked around and I said, this is what I'm meant to achieve to fill me up. This is meant to be fulfillment and satisfaction. And I felt nothing. So I had to admit that it was okay for everybody else. It wasn't okay for me. And that was the biggest turning point. It was that I must be different if this is what everybody says is what we need to have. And I think it was probably 6 months later, I was in Peru in the Amazon, vomiting my guts up with a bunch of strangers, and my life changed forever. And I was like, cool, well, if this is the thing that brings me fulfillment and all of that doesn't, then I really have to understand who I am. So it was that point of difference that said, okay, it's all right that I'm different. I've just got to go and find what lights me up.
Mm. Love it. Thank
Cool.
you. Thanks, Heather.
Cool.
Thank you so much. And
Thank you, Ash. What a beautiful space you hold. Excellent questions. You got such lovely energy. I really appreciate this and what it does for the world.
thank you. It's an honor. Yeah. And receiving that. Thank you.